Check out what's been going on with the Pop Culture Cosmos Show and the PCC Multiverse. That's the Pop Culture Cosmos Show.
And the PCC Multiverse, every week on the Podcast Radio Network and Apple Podcasts.
Gotta wait for the flushing toilet. And over a dozen of your favorite streaming and podcasting options. And over a dozen of your favorite streaming and podcasting options. On this week's episode, Josh Peterson and I weigh in with our thoughts on the weekend battle at the box office as Spider-Man Homecoming and War for the Planet of the Apes get set to do battle. We also talked the latest Emmy nominations and who got their just due and who should be singing the blues. And can Gran Turismo reach the heights of its former video game glory and give Forza a race for its money? All this plus more clips from the great podcast at Humanica Media, a clip from the latest Tiny Titan stream, and another hit song from Hyperschmidt. It's another huge bag of podcasting kittens we have for you today as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos. We truly appreciate everyone out there giving us a chance and listening out there, whether you're streaming us on the Podcast Radio Network or on the over dozen downloadable podcasting and streaming options that we have out there. We truly appreciate being part of the broadcast here today. And who else is with me? None other than the man, the myth, the legend, the man behind Humanica Media is Josh Peterson. What's going down, my friend?
Oh, you know, just the usual Thursday night jazz. Just got done recording some super BS. But yeah, man, let's talk about some stuff and some things and some pop culture things.
Absolutely. But first, not only is the Super BS Gamescast coming around the corner because he just taped it, but what else came out this week that you're really, really interested about telling about everyone? And, you know, not only what's going on with the Podcast Radio Network, but also your stuff going on Podbean, iTunes, and podcast.com.
Yeah, it's a whole bag of mixed nuts there. We have a Attack of the Humanicans, which you can listen to on Podcast Radio Network every Tuesday at, what is the time?
7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. I was seeing that all that great advertising and seeing that big Humanica Media logo out there. So I was like, oh, wow, he is part of the big time schedule now. But what else is going on? Because I know, like I said, you had also one of your other podcasts that really, really gotten a lot of interest from a lot of people out there.
Yeah, we got Topicocalypse has gotten a lot more listeners than I thought it would. We're only on episode 2, and we've had over 300 listens. I know compared to the big guys, it's not that much, but to me, that's quite a few. So thank you for listening. You can, if you haven't listened to it, you can check it out on podcast.com, YouTube, and our Facebook page. Hopefully it'll be up on iTunes soon, or you can check it out at the end of several of these Pop Culture Cosmos podcasts.
That's right. We'll have a taste of Topicocalypse today. That's Topicocalypse. You can catch right now on iTunes, Podbean, and podcast.com. Well, it's going to be another great episode indeed. Again, we truly appreciate being part of the broadcast. We're the PCC Multiverse, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. We also got the #1 show 5 months in a row on the Podcast Radio Network, Monday nights, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos Show indeed. And later on, we'll get you a list of all those great channels that we're on. But right now, there's a big battle brewing at the box office. And I don't want to delay our conversation even more because he hasn't told me. Josh hasn't told me yet exactly what he thinks of Spider-Man Homecoming. And you know, he's the big Spider-Man freak around here when it comes to, you know, the comic book web slinger and all that. So I'm interested to find out if you want to hear, actually, if you want to read my review of Spider-Man Homecoming, I actually have it on our site, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. That has it in detail. I'll give some hints and whatnot, obviously, in our conversation here. But Josh, in the big battle brewing this weekend at the box office, we have Spider-Man Homecoming and also as well War for the Planet of the Apes. War for the Planet of the Apes has really, really done well with critics. It's holding about an 82% rating on Metacritic, and that's based off of all the major critics ratings out there. It's quite possibly the best of the trio of movies from this recent Planet of the Apes iterations. So I want to hear your thoughts, not only how well that will do this weekend, but faring up against a strong second week contender in Spider-Man Homecoming, which I know you have just seen, and I know you have a lot to share about as well.
What do you want to hear first? What are you asking me?
See, that's the thing, man. You got to keep up with the program. I know I was asking a lot of questions.
I mean, that's like 3 or 4 questions at once. What do you want me to answer?
I know I have a tendency to do that, and I apologize sincerely. But what are your thoughts going in as far as War of the Apes and how it can hold up against a second week strong contender, which may only lose about half or maybe even less of its opening $117 million domestic win at the box office? It's going to be, War of the Planet of the Apes versus Spider-Man Homecoming. So what are your thoughts on War of the Planet of the Apes?
I think it'll do okay, because there's not everybody likes superhero movies. I know Spider-Man is super popular, but it's refreshing. Like, if we've seen anything from like Baby Driver, it's that people do still like to go in to movies and watch things that are different, watch things that are not related to superhero franchises. They like to watch big blockbusters that don't have, people flying around punching each other and explosions. Like, I hear, from what I understand, the new Planet of the Apes film has a very compelling story, and it's interesting and it's emotional, and that's the kind of movie that we haven't really seen in summer blockbusters for a while. And it's
closing out this area of the trilogy, correct?
Correct. But I also hear that what's his name, Matt Reeves, he's the director, correct? After he's done with Batman, he wants to go back and do some more, but I don't know if Fox will wait that long, but we'll see. But anyways, yeah, I hear that the movie's really good, and if this trilogy of movies has been really great, like, it's been a step forward for science fiction movies, and as far as remakes go, like, it has really set the bar high for that type of film, and I think that that's kind of what audiences want to see or need to see right now, is something that's not related to someone wearing spandex, and it's garnering good reviews and people are saying good things about it. So we'll have to wait and see. Like, I have to watch it before I, make a call about it, but I think that it'll do okay. I'm pretty sure it'll hold its own. The last 2 movies did decently.
Yes, they've garnered over $1.1 billion at the box office combined worldwide. So they've been very, very good, very solid moneymakers at the box office, with the second actually, as what movie industry analysts and also movie industry companies like to see, as far as the sequel doing substantially better than the original, which did well in its own right in itself. So I'm not sure. Actually, Fox is estimating a little bit lower the initial opening because of the strong leadoff against Spider-Man Homecoming than what the previous film in the series did, but it's still expecting strong numbers indeed. And I think it will gather a really good word of mouth and a strong legs at the box office, because the fact it looks like, from all appearances, to be a really quality film, and definitely a great way to close out the trilogy indeed. So I'm looking forward to a nice battle indeed between the two. I still think it could be fairly close, but I still think War of the Planet of the Apes will come out on top, but it'll be very close. And I think War for the Planet of the Apes, just like its predecessors, they don't get the big, huge upfront money, but what they have is people coming in the second, the third, and the fourth week to really pack them in, as far as, and really sustain that hold week after week after week, because those movies are very, very good when it comes to word of mouth. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that battle shape out this weekend. And Monday we'll talk a little bit more about it on the Pop Culture Cosmos show. But As far as Spider-Man Homecoming is concerned, I know you've seen it. So, and people know a little bit of my thoughts, but before I go into any more about Spider-Man Homecoming, because I have some questions for you, please share your initial thoughts on the film itself as you left the theater.
Okay, so Spider-Man Homecoming. Are you hearing that right now?
Yes, I am. It's like Spider-Man Homecoming. Arf, barf, barf.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
I didn't know it was that bad. Come on, man.
Hey, you're muted.
So can you tell us once again what was going on with your thoughts when it comes to Spider-Man Homecoming as you left the theater?
Okay, Spider-Man Homecoming. It was good. It was probably, it's better than most Marvel films, but I still don't think that it was as good as Amazing Spider-Man. And I'll tell you why. Because I think in Amazing Spider-Man, it really just it hits you it hits your emotions. Everything is so well written. The villains, you sympathize with the villain. They have a reason to be villainous. And you have Peter Parker who's in this situation where he's thrust into this thing and he has to deal with it. But and the consequences of his actions. Whereas in Spider-Man Homecoming, I don't really feel like he has as much on the line as the Spider-Man did in Amazing Spider-Man. So you have, in the big reveal about the Vulture being, can we spoil things? Are we good on spoilers? All right. The big reveal about the Vulture being Liz's dad, like that was like their big twist, but it wasn't there wasn't any reason for Peter Parker to immediately go out and ditch her at prom. Like it was such like a weird revelation to me that he suddenly knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. That was a rabbit hole. Like that was definitely a deep rabbit hole for him to have reached down and come to that conclusion so fast. And like as far as the Vulture's motivations for being a criminal, I kind of got it, but it wasn't as much of an emotional punch as like the Lizard's motivation.
Well, it isn't as emotional, and this is one of the slight flaws I had with the film. To me, it wasn't an emotional punch near the end when he's riding his Jaguar and has his big house, and he still tries to justify it like he's one of the little guys, and he's rolling around in his Jag everywhere. If that makes any sense, it just loses all that justification that he had in the beginning of the film when it was, apparent exactly how down and out that whole group was. Correct?
Right, and I think they especially like the scene when Peter runs out of prom. There was honestly he didn't even know that he was going after the Stark plane at that moment. He just decided why did he need to do that? Like why was that so important for him? He didn't say that he was going to kill his aunt. He just said, show my daughter a good time. There wasn't any reason. It wasn't, he wasn't going to spill gas all over the city and turn everyone into lizards or something. And I think that the writers kind of realized that, and that's why Shocker was out there at the end, and Peter's like, hey, what were you doing out here? So see, I think they kind of threw some dialogue and maybe some extra parts in there just to kind of weave their tale together. But I feel like, yes, it could exist on its own, but I feel like it was really relying on the fame of Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark to kind of give this kid a place in this universe. Whereas I think the other Spider-Man movies, even Sam Raimi's original trilogy, did a great job of having this hero exist in his own world. So I think they could have done a little bit better job of making him not feel so much like we're trying really hard to tie this in to that. But I liked it. There were some writing flaws.
Well, like I said, I had some issues with what Michael Keaton's character was saying at the end, the justification, because it just really, you couldn't justify it because of what his situation was near the end, and now he just became an all out and out criminal at the end, which is, like I said, obviously what you want to do when you get closer to the end and you're really ready to battle. You want to have Tom Holland's character really justify why he's doing what he's doing. I could see why you thought it was kind of vague how they just go ahead at the prom and just kind of go ahead and brush off that end of it and just go right into, he needs to go ahead after the Vulture after they recognize and realize each other. But his compulsion to do the right thing, his compulsion to be that hero and be beyond the neighborhood Spider-Man hero, gave him that compulsion to do
I get that part is just like I like when these heroes, like, seriously, what drew me into Amazing Spider-Man is that literally everybody in the movie had something at stake, and I didn't really feel that in this movie.
I can understand that, and I definitely can empathize with that as far as your thoughts on that. I still overall thought Holland's performance was brilliant. I thought they obviously wanted to sprinkle in everyone else, and they did a great job of doing that. But I wanted to see more from most of the characters that were in there. I would have liked to have seen more of Robert Downey Jr.'s character interplay with Tom Holland on that. A little bit more Zendaya's character to understand a little bit more her motivations indeed for the long term, especially since she will be a version of MJ or could be a version of MJ down the road. And then also as well, I want to ask you the biggest question at all that I have when it comes to Spider-Man Homecoming.
What question? Are you going to ask me something?
Yes.
Okay. What's your question?
How did they blow it on 8 years later?
What do you mean 8 years later?
In the scene where they're talking about, in the beginning, for all intents and purposes, they're a salvage crew, as far as Michael Keaton's crew, as far as originally before he became the Vulture. And they were a salvage crew after superhero, battles and whatnot. And they're the ones that they were given permission to go ahead and clean up and whatnot. So they start to clean up anyways, the Battle of New York, right after the Battle of New York. If you're following me now, and Battle of New York takes place in the Avengers movie in 2012. So that being the case, they get overrun by damage control, which comic book fans would be familiar with, and what we alluded to on a previous podcast. And unfortunately, they're out of a job, and they're forced to go ahead and with whatever alien technology that they have at their stead, as far as what they've already gathered, try and come up with some weapons that they can go ahead and go a different route that's not exactly awesome and legal, but they go down that route obviously to become the villainous crew that they do. But the next thing you see before the evolution of Tom Holland's character is the big sign and the big graphic 8 years later, which would put the movie a little bit ahead of schedule, and that would make it 2020. So I ask you, what's up with 8 years later?
I don't know. The movie I noticed was kind of all over the Marvel timeline. Like it was.
And doesn't make sense to me, because unless you're trying to place it after the Infinity Wars, which doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah, because you have the Wrecking Crew, which is 2012. Then you had what happens, I guess, literally right after, was it Age of Ultron, or was it where they had that new building?
Yeah, and then that's it had that new building, and then they placed that time back. So you're talking about even a different, because that new building is there when Captain America Civil War happens, and it happens at the end of Age of Ultron, that new facility, because they talk about the Hulk splitting up, Hulk's gone his way.
Yeah, when they introduced it as like a brand new facility, like
so it's like that took place 3 years after, because the Ultron was a 2015 film. So now you're making your timeline even stranger. And then there's the fact that Peter Parker was announced as the kid in the Tony Stark Expo deal in Iron Man 2 at the scene where the kid with the Iron Man helmet on was going to go and try and battle these guys. And obviously Iron Man saves the day in front of him in a scene reminiscent.
Posters in his room too. I remember
Yeah. And it's a scene right out of that one. I think came first ahead of these Amazing Spider-Man 2, was it? Where the kid does it in front of the Rhino. Yeah, so like eerily reminiscent of each other. But anyways, that was Peter Parker in Iron Man 2. They alluded to that. So he would have been, Iron Man 2 was a 2011 film?
Yeah, about then.
So that would have made it 7 years ago. So he was 15 in the movie. So he would have been 8 years old then. Okay. So it just like the timeline really gets a little bit messed up when it concerns the Marvel timeline. So if you really take a look at it, it's all out of whack, and it definitely doesn't make
10.
It 2010. Okay. So he would have been 7 years old at that point in time. So, okay. So he's 15 now. It's 8 years later. I get that part. But you should have started the movie based off of that incident as opposed to the battle for New York, if you're going to go that route, correct?
Right.
Yeah. But if they wanted to start with, seeing how the Vulture, got his origins then, and the battle for New York salvage and all that, then you had to have changed it to 5 years later. So that's a little sticking point that I have. And now I think the Marvel timeline is very similar now to the X-Men timeline, thanks to Spider-Man Homecoming, because nobody has any idea what's going on with the X-Men timeline. But this is now a major task that Kevin Feige has to undertake in regards to setting things right, because now there's so many different things. Marvel has been so careful about placing everything in its timeline, and now I'm also explaining how the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to interact with the Avengers in the upcoming Infinity Wars. That's another biggie, how they're going to be able to do that. So that being the case, it's just all over the place. So it's going to be interesting to see how they try to still piece that all together. But Spider-Man Homecoming kind of put things from a Marvel timeline perspective a little bit out of whack. Don't you agree?
Yeah, they pulled an X-Men on us. So hopefully I know that they can somehow find a way to fix it, but yeah, it was kind of all over the place. So we'll see where that ends up.
If they had done the scene in the beginning of the movie from Iron Man 2, if they'd had mirrored that, then I could see the 8 years later. But since they did the Battle of New York at the beginning of the movie in Spider-Man Homecoming, again, spoilers, sorry everyone, then it should have been 5 years later indeed. But that's neither here nor there. But your thoughts? It was a good movie. Just you think that Amazing Spider-Man 1 is better. There's still so many people, as I told you before, that loves the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2 is the best. I personally think this is far away the best of the Spider-Man Homecoming, even with all those slight flaws. This is still the best of the Spider-Man movies, because I've never actually enjoyed a Spider-Man movie as much as I have this one. There's been bits and pieces which I've kind of liked, but nothing as a whole. And definitely this fits for me, my maybe from a casual viewer's point of view, and not necessarily from a comic book standpoint. It fits more into my realm as far as what I'd like to see out of Spider-Man. And then it also leads into many, many, many things into the Spider-Man universe, and it does definitely try to do more in helping that universe indeed, does it not?
It does. I think that like Marvel's take on these characters is they want to keep it campy, they want to keep it funny, they want to keep it lighthearted, and I respect that, and I know that Spider-Man is a very funny character, but his universe and his world, like it's funny, it's also very dark and kind of depressing at moments. Like, so I hope that that Marvel will still, find a way to capture those moments not make it like something that we just want to laugh at all the time, you know?
I understand. Indeed, there was a very emotional scene in the warehouse where he has all the roof cave in under him, and he at the moment did not have the will or the strength in his own heart. He thought to be able to get himself out of it, but he willed himself because he remembered what Tony Stark had told him. Which I like that emotional scene. That scene got to me as far as from a powerful scene indeed. And I think credit goes to Tom Holland on that because, like I said, I think to me he's the best Peter Parker that I have seen on film. And I know like I said, you're the expert, you're the comic book man indeed. But I'm telling you, from my point of view, I think Spider-Man: Homecoming is a definite watch. You thought it was a good movie as well. What are your thoughts on Spider-Man: Homecoming out there? Do you like our little spoilers as far as it's concerned? Let you know that, what's going on. What are some of the questions that you have out there for the movie itself? And do you think that it's going to do really well up against War for the Planet of the Apes? Or do you think War for the Planet of the Apes is going to be the film to look at going forward from this point forward? Let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanican Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. And as a great thing indeed, like I said, if you catch the Pop Culture Cosmos show on Monday, we're going to be talking more about the Weekend Battle indeed. And then also check out Josh's show. Josh's show, The Attack of the Humanicans. That was a tongue twister right there. Attack of the Humanicans. That's going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. Well, we've got a great show lined up for you. We've also got a conversation with Christian Zamunio previewing EVO tournament, the biggest tournament of the year for many fighting game fans. It's going to be previewed by our own Christian Zamudio coming up later in the program. Also as well, the Tiny Titan stream is going to be a little bit, going to get a clip from the latest Tiny Titan stream with Rob McCallum, with all the great games that they've got going on there, and find out a little bit more about that. And then a Topicocalypse clip coming up for you as well. We're going to be talking some Emmy nods. We're going to be talking some Gran Turismo and John, well, a great subject Josh likes to talk about. We'll close out the show with that. But first, we're going to be talking a little. But first, we're going to have a lot of great stuff for you on the show today. But first, we got a great song from Hyperschmidt. This is Forsaken, and this is the PCC Multiverse. That's going to be fun in editing. And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. Josh, I just want to ask you real quick, what is, when it comes to the Emmy nominations and the best of television, I know it's getting a little bit harder to with all the shows that are out there for people to get a gather on exactly what is the best in television today. I have my thoughts on what television is, what good television is, and I know that's far different from what you or anybody else would think as well, because there's so many different things to watch in television. It's hard to get a glimpse of what's going on. But what are some of the Emmy nominations that stuck out to you, maybe that you thought was really good, and someone or something, a show or whatnot, that you thought really got snubbed?
Okay, so I'm looking at the list now. Like I said, I don't watch a lot of TV. The stuff that's on like Netflix, I do watch. It's on HBO stuff, but I'm glad Stranger Things is on there. That if Stranger Things and Westworld, I love Stranger Things. I hear
Westworld had its moments. Westworld to me was kind of up and down, but when it was strong, it was really, really strong.
Yeah, and I feel like Silicon Valley definitely deserves a nomination for Best Outstanding Comedy Series. I don't know much about the actors.
This Is Us, again, riding high off all that momentum. It's been a big boom for NBC. You can see why they got a lot of acting nominations and also as well outstanding drama nomination as well. So that credit to them. With me though, as someone who, like I said, sees a selected amount of TV, I think the Americans not being on the Emmy nods this year, because that just year after year after year just really has just some strong, really strong as far as plot lines, as far as storytelling. I think it should be on that list every single year. But and then obviously the surprise was, seeing so many nominations for Saturday Night Live. But then again, this is one of their best years as far as from a critical, but also a rating standpoint in many, many years. So maybe that's shouldn't be surprising indeed. But does anything else stick out to you as far as the Emmy nominations are concerned?
Sherlock. I'm glad that's up there. They haven't been nominated before, have they?
No, not that I have seen. So yeah, Sherlock.
That is really an outstanding show. It's so well done, so well produced, so well acted, and I can see why people like it so much.
Indeed. I don't know how long they're going to stick with it, because obviously the main characters are kind of busy doing a lot of stuff. So it's always hard to squeeze in that schedule to, when you have two actors that are so preoccupied with doing other things and bigger projects. It's great to see when they go and do something like this, that they're still able to go ahead and really perform at that level, correct?
Right, but I think that it is shows like this, these such heavily acted shows, that kind of got them into these roles that they're in now. Like we wouldn't, I think as far as Benedict Cumberbatch goes, like I think that this Sherlock kind of put him on the map. Yes, he was good and he's been in a lot of other things, but I think Sherlock put him on the map, and it's cool because you don't see a lot of classically trained actors in, movies like in the Marvel universe and stuff like that. So that's really cool to see.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. That's definitely an outstanding, perception as far as seeing that Benedict Cumberbatch getting that nod. But just the show itself is really solid, and I'm glad that Benedict Cumberbatch did get the actual nomination for his performance. Indeed. What are your thoughts out there on the Emmy nominations? Tell us your thoughts on who you think got snubbed, or who do you think who are you really happy that got a nod or whatnot, and who do you think is actually going to win some of these categories? Send us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, and Facebook on Facebook, also Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. And don't forget our good friends at the TV Ratings Guide. Also send your thoughts there as well, because they are the leaders as far as in television information, and I'm sure they'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Or we'll forward it to them. That's no problem indeed, if you want us to as well. And they can always come on our show, as they always have before. In fact, they're planning to do so before the fall premieres, and we can ask them a question as well. And we're back with Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. If you get a chance, check us out. Like I said, every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. And then also as well, our two other great shows on the Podcast Radio Network. That would be Pop Culture Cosmos Show, the #1 show 5 months in a row at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. And Attack of the Humanicans at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, also on the Podcast Radio Network. And if you like our shows a lot, you check us out. Please do so, because we truly appreciate you checking us out. If you can't catch us on the Podcast Radio Network, we've got a ton of options for you to download and stream, including iTunes or Apple Podcasts. I think that's probably the best way to say it now. Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, the Ace Podcast Network, Overcast.fm, Player.fm, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Podcast.com, Mixcloud, the ESO Network, the Tangent Bound Network, and the Gunna Geek Network as well. And then also our home site, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. You can actually just hit the right there on the RSS feed, and it'll play right for you as well. And then Josh's Humanican shows play on Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, and podcast.com as well. So, Josh, you were at E3 2017 with me. We got a chance to take a look at a lot of great games, including when we went to the PlayStation booth and the Xbox One booth. And when you go by the Xbox One booth and you know the Xbox One X is coming out later this year, obviously there's a new Forza game to go along with it, Forza Motorsport 7. That's going to look great. But Forza's been the king of the driving games for many years now, taking the throne away from a title that you and I both have some familiarity with, and that's the Gran Turismo series. Well, sure enough, Gran Turismo is coming back, and hopefully coming back strong, October 18th to the PlayStation 4. So I ask you, Josh, your thoughts when you were filming and taking a look at all the action going on with Gran Turismo, and do you think it's going to reclaim the throne as being the premier game in the racing genre?
It's funny, I was actually talking about this with the guys on the Super BS Gamescast tonight. I don't honestly I think it looks cool, and I know people are excited for it, but I think that Forza is kind of one of those games where people can rely on it to be good. Gran Turismo has, over the years, they have constantly tried to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, and it hasn't panned out very well for them. And is either the last one or the one before that where you could play half the game,
the prologue.
Was that what it was? Well, there's one where you raced half the game, and the other half of the game you were coaching drivers. That's not fun. People like Forza because they can play it from start to finish. There's no weird game types or modes they have to go through. They can just sit there and play it and enjoy it. Whereas Gran Turismo is always trying to put these nifty little game modes in there that people aren't really too fond of. And whereas with Gran Turismo, you have to wait 3, 4, sometimes 5 years for a new entry. Forza has always been there. And I think because, Forza is like the Madden of racing games, people are going to be more loyal to something they know they're going to get each year.
But similar to what we're seeing in the movies, do you think there could be a franchise burnout that would have them gravitate over to Gran Turismo?
I don't think so, because either way, they're going to be playing a racing game, and I think they're getting their fix with Forza, and they don't have to worry about, having a racing game they don't like. They already know that they're going to enjoy Forza. And while Gran Turismo, the new one especially, looks very beautiful, and it has VR capabilities, I don't know if that's what that's going to turn into, but I think that it's going to be good, and it's going to get good reviews, but it's not going to knock Forza off of its throne.
Well, either which way, Gran Turismo, it certainly is not what it once was in the industry, when it was the definitive racing game in the business, and it was something that actually moved systems way back when. And even the most recent successful line of Gran Turismo games has not really been at the level that it once was before. I think, like you said, those 5 to 7 year gaps where it just wasn't available has caused fans to go ahead and get somewhere else their racing fix. And like you said, they've actually gravitated in this case to Forza, and also with the Horizon series and the Forza Motorsport series. And the Forza Motorsport Series 7 is going to be the big title this year. Like you said, it looks like it's going to be something that will still stay, at least for now, in the Xbox One camp. Now, mind you, neither one, as we've talked about before, are going to move systems by itself, but it's definitely something that could be like a second or third or fourth game for somebody that's just getting a PS4 or somebody that's just getting an Xbox One X. So it could be something that both are having as add-ons, but not as priority games in the case of Gran Turismo, like it was once way back when, some 20 some odd years ago. So definitely something to think about when it comes to the two. I think Gran Turismo looks really good, but like you said, it's what you do within the game that concerns both you and I. Is there going to be an issue with a lot of non-interaction in the game, which is not really good from a player standpoint? What's the multiplayer going to be like? I know you and I talked to the folks from NASCAR Heat 2, which are boasting again a 40-player online race type format, which from my standpoint is very appealing. I know iRacing, which is the high-end PC racing series, which simulates series from all around the world, from NASCAR to Indy to Le Mans to various different classes and whatnot. Those are the high end of the spectrum, but because of their great costs, that only a limited amount of people actually can do it, because it does take a lot of money to not only for the iRacing series itself, to buy tracks, to buy equipment, exactly, et cetera, but also buy the actual physical equipment that you need to drive on and use. So that's definitely something to think about when you're talking about the racing genre, which is the best or whatnot. But Gran Turismo could be a contender, but it's not exactly just the car itself and how it looks great on the outside, but what's underneath the hood in this case. And I couldn't agree with you more on that. What are your thoughts? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, at the end of the day, though, you're not going to get another Gran Turismo next year, though. It's going to be, you're going to have Forza. So, I mean, as good as Gran Turismo might be, you still have to think about the fact that you're not going to get your annual racing entry. So, I mean, Gran Turismo,
you're not going to get a Horizon 4 most likely.
And Gran Turismo could knock
DLC. All you're going to get is DLC most likely.
Yeah, and Gran Turismo could knock Forza off of its perch for maybe a year, but as soon as another Forza comes out and there's no Gran Turismo to hold the title, it's all might be pointless in the end.
Well, it could be worse. It could be Drive Club, but we won't go there. What are your thoughts on Gran Turismo versus Forza Motorsport 7? PlayStation 4 owners, are you excited that this Gran Turismo is coming around the corner? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanican Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Can you hear that on the screen? Can you hear that? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm hoping you won't hear it. It's water running continuously, so that's always a great thing. And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from PCC. And we're back to close out the show. This is the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. If you have any questions for us, please, we just love hearing your thoughts out there. Or if you want to check us out on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it's now being called, rate us and review us while you're there. We truly appreciate all the 5-star ratings we got in the past week. It just are so awesome that people out there are liking us indeed, and we truly want to give a shout out to those who did that, and I will do so at the end of the show. But Josh, it's going to be a great weekend for you, or coming up for a lot of fans out there. It's going to be the premiere of Game of Thrones Season 7, I believe, correct?
Correct. It's a big one. It's the second to last season. So this is where all of the episodes of endless talking and backstabbing are finally leading into something epic.
Well, let's hope it leads to something epic. So I ask you, Josh, what are some of the epic things that I know you mentioned it about a month ago when we were talking a little bit briefly about Game of Thrones, but now that you've been able to see the trailer and now that you see all the things that they're pointing towards you, what are you expecting about an initial episode, a season premiere for Season 7 of Game of Thrones? What are some of the little things that you're going to be looking forward to as far as that will lead into the big picture for the overall battle that's coming up?
See, I honestly don't remember what happened at the last episode, but I think that we're going to see some things with Jon Snow and Sansa, there's going to be some conflict there for sure. And I know Cersei, we're going to see her kind of step into her role and kind of plan her war against Westeros, so to speak. I think that this, my prediction is that season 7 will kind of wrap up the whole war between the kingdoms, and then season 8 will have the kingdoms finally going to war with the others. And so that way we'll have season 8 will be full of all the stuff that we hope to see as far as mysticism and magic. Maybe they'll finally solve who gets to sit on the Iron Throne, or maybe they'll throw a wrench in things and the conflict with the others will happen while they're still fighting over the Iron Throne. But it'll be cool to see Khaleesi actually end up in Westeros and see what she does first.
Well, that's definitely some great insight indeed, and I definitely am looking forward to it as well. I know millions of you out there are definitely looking forward to the season premiere of Game of Thrones as it hits its 7th season. I know everybody's excited because you can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel and where all things are leading towards to indeed. So that's something great to look forward to as season 7 from Game of Thrones hits. And that's, coming up right around the corner right here right on HBO indeed. What are your thoughts on Game of Thrones? Tell us out there your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. And then just let us know exactly what kind of things are you're looking forward to. What kind of battles do you see, coming up and that's impending? What are some of the things that are intriguing you most about the battle over the Iron Throne that's going to be coming up right in the near future? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, and Humanica Media on Facebook and Twitter as well. And I do want to thank everybody out there that gave us those 5-star reviews this past week on iTunes. And that includes Johan, Jay Landers, Jace, the German one, Southern Biscuit. Just, I know those are your code names. Those obviously not your real names, but appreciate all you out there giving us those 5-star rating reviews. And if you get a chance as well, and you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, we truly appreciate you giving us that option right there to go ahead and rate and review our show indeed. So Josh, any last words on what's going on with Humanica Media on the way out, or any last thoughts coming up on anything you got cooking hot in the stove this weekend?
No, I mean, stay tuned for New Super BS. We also have, the Tuesday night show, so be on the lookout for that. Other than that, we'll continue to pump out some Topicocalypse. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, you can check it out on podcast.com, YouTube, Facebook. But yeah, we're ramping up production on stuff, so there'll be more coming soon.
That's awesome indeed. And we truly appreciate, again, everybody out there telling us the good word in regards to our show, and hopefully we'll be able to tell your friends about us so we can go ahead and be on even more great places indeed coming up in the future. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.